Hello and welcome to Gameweek 19 of the Premium Player podcast. If you're not following us already, please do on at premium_FPL on Twitter. Mindy's been hilarious this week trying to navigate through the game week and COVID mess. I'm sure a lot of people can relate. We're going to talk about obviously the COVID chaos, 2 games off already. Man City, despite 2 big wins, the midfielders that they expect to play at the weekend didn't. And then we'll go through whether we're either going to free hit this week. Obviously, the news around 2 free hits as well. So, yeah, a lot going on in the FPL world and free fixtures coming thick and fast now, isn't there?
Yeah, it was one of the weirdest weekends for FPL I've ever experienced, I think, the way it all unfolded on Saturday. You said I was hilarious. You were the one who brought in Watkins and then 10 minutes later realised, shouldn't have brought in Watkins.
Matty Cash it was. I already had Watkins. Yeah, I brought in Cash 10 minutes before the news broke that he was off. Yeah,
if I told you about early transfers, I can go
now. I was not going to call it off 3 hours. Not going to call it off 2 hours before kickoff, had he? But yeah,
you just love an early transfer.
Season. Just when I was catching you up as well.
I think it's fitting though, because you've been lucky with early transfers for the past 2 years, so it's about time it'll caught up with you.
But hell, no one can anticipate a game being called off 2 hours before.
The fact that there was 2 deadlines in the end, I think FPL have heard about you not being able to get the deadline right, so they thought, well, if we give him 2, Callum will at least have a chance of being close to one of them.
Look at it, the silence in the room.
No response. You got to get some digs in. What else should we get into? Well, before we get into all the actual ins and outs of what happened at the weekend, admin, if you've got any questions, drop them in the comments. We're competing with some big dogs going live at this time, so I imagine everyone's probably elsewhere. But if you are here, give us some questions in the YouTube comments. Podcast listeners, we're recording this on Thursday at about 6 o'clock. So many games that get called off or players that catch COVID after Thursday at 6, we're not privy to that information. And yeah, same as always, like, subscribe, drop us a follow on Instagram and Twitter. Premium_FPL is the handle for both. Let's get cracking.
Sorry, just had a quick interruption there with Adobe trying to install something. But yeah, let's get going. We'll start off with the game week review. Mr. Smith Rowe delivering again for you. Smith Rowe and your Mount must be your favourite players this season, right?
He only needs a shot to score, doesn't he, Smith Rowe? Comes on for 10 minutes, 1 shot, 1 goal. I mean, that's like, I think, what did I see at the start before? Is he scored 7 goals from an XG of 2.5, which is a ridiculous overperformance. That's absolutely mental.
Jesse Lingard levels that.
So I think it's even more than that. So yeah, crazy. It's a bit straight. It's a strange situation to be in with him. Obviously, I'm happy to have had those points from him, given he's not been starting. He's quite lucky. But now he's got Norwich, so I'm not transferring him out before Norwich, because even if he comes on for 10-15 minutes, same thing could happen again. But yeah, that uncertainty, with especially now that Martinelli looks a lot more than just a sub option. He kind of looks like he's pretty much first choice. So I just think him, Smith Rowe, Saka, Odegaard, they'll all just be sharing minutes. So yeah, I'm not really. I wouldn't advise anyone to get one of them. I guess Martinelli's at a price point where you could just have him as your 5th mid, and you'd be quite happy with whatever minutes you get from him. He looks to have the most goal threat out of all of them as well, to be honest, doesn't he? So he's probably the one.
Brother brought him in. Of course he did. Every transfer he brings in this year, he strikes the goal.
We'll have to get him to start tweeting out his transfer recommendations for the Twitter account.
Yeah. It's unbelievable, some of his transfers this season, but fair play.
The Chelsea game was, obviously they tried to get their game called off, and the team was actually all right still, but yeah, they didn't have much on the bench, and they kind of just played out a very dull dull game, which worked out well for my double Chelsea defence, not for Mount. I didn't really consider captaining Cancelo, but people did that. Well done to them. Amazing result that. Just had Bernardo from the midfielders. Obviously, I went for the safe pick in Bernardo. Safe in more ways than one, by the looks of it. Can't really talk too much about the Foden Grealish rumours, but let's just hope for owners that they aren't subs anymore and they can get back to dominating on the pitch.
How long have you been racing that one?
I didn't get a laugh before for my deadline one, so I had to try extra hard there.
Very good, very good.
Lacazette was my transfer in, by the way. So yeah, I waited until I think I was hovering over the transfer button when I saw I noticed when the betting markets went for Aston Villa, because I was looking at Matty Cash for what was I looking at shots, and then just all of a sudden it all disappeared in front of my eyes. I was like, what's happened there? And then I messaged you, and we were both wondering what was going on, and then yeah, it turned out so. So after that, I just set an alarm for 5 minutes before the new deadline, which I think is probably advice going forwards, isn't it? Like, I know it's not practical for people who have lives, but obviously I don't have anything better to do, so I'm happy to set my alarm for 5 minutes before the deadline. I think you just got to try and leave your transfer as late as possible now, as late as you possibly can. It should be all right for people on Boxing Day, hopefully, because you've got people who aren't key workers or whatever. If you're likely to have it off, so you can set an alarm for as close as possible to the deadline. So yeah, I had 2 free transfers, used one on Lacazette, and I've got 2 transfers now this week.
Nice. Move on.
I'll quickly do my rank rise, actually, seeing as I did have a rank rise. That was the other thing about this week. I got 69. So two game weeks, I've got 69 in a row. I think that's the first.
So my rank's trying to tell you something, lad.
Yeah, that's probably the peak of my sex life for this year, actually. Those 2 game weeks. So my rank rose from 161 to 105k, which is a nice little jump, highest I've been all season. So yeah, Christmas time is usually the time that separates the subs from the DOMs. So let's hope that continues.
Nice, mate. Hopefully you're inside the top 100. That'll be a nice New Year present, won't it? And like myself, 49 this week, just when I was getting cocky, moving in closer to yourself. I have brought in Matty Cash 5 minutes before the game was off, which was great, alongside Lacazette. And 5 points from that game from an Arsenal player. An Arsenal striker probably isn't a good return, really, was it, after that game? But nevertheless, obviously Cancelo, Trent, James, who everyone has, probably a double Chelsea did cost me. And then, Foden, Gundogan, both blank, both didn't play, both didn't come on for a minute. So, that was a bit annoying, especially after Foden's performance against Leeds. It was unbelievable, that game. But obviously the headlines, if you've not seen them already, go and check them out, which might affect. We know what Pep's like with when something happens with a player. You might not be seeing again until like February. Or with Foden, with how well he's playing, he might get to take a lighter touch. So it'd be interesting to see Boxing Day whether he does play or not. Salah and Jota, we're going to talk about game off on Boxing Day, and then Watkins didn't play, like I said, so only had 9 players in the end. So a bit of a disappointing game week in the end.
What was your rank movement? Was it a green or a red?
Red. So I was just inside the 400,000, but slipped out to 421, so it wasn't too bad in the end. Could have been better though. I think the City midfielders cost big time.
Yeah. So we'll talk more about what to do with City soon.
Yeah, just a quick one if you've not seen already. Obviously, we're recording Thursday, which is 3 days before Boxing Day fixtures on Mass. Mass was off key there, but Yeah, so 3 days, plenty of time for other fixtures to fall and we could get 4 more fixtures to fall, unfortunately. Watford now, is that their 4th game in a row which is called off? So they must be on a big outbreak. It's either 3 or 4. I don't know if the opposition was involved in some of them, but yeah. Leeds is an interesting one. Obviously, against Arsenal, they had about 6 first-team players, and now the PL have deemed that they haven't got a big enough squad. So it'd be interesting to see how many more players went down. I know Leeds right up until the deadline, to kick off. I actually had intel from someone at the game, commentator, but he was saying right up until kick-off they were trying to get it postponed and in discussions with the Premier League. So it was quite a surprise to them that the Arsenal game went ahead when other games were getting called off here and there and everywhere. So yeah, no surprise to see their game fall this week. Probably a week too late for them because I thought they were very unlucky to not have their game against Arsenal postponed.
So now you mentioned you've got inside sources, commentators on your side. Not heard you mention that before.
It was just chance that the commentator who was there was at the City game. So yeah, won't reveal who.
Right, interesting. So yeah, how does this affect things for you then? Is it just Liverpool boys out of your team?
Well, yeah, interesting that I was saying one on a group chat that the Premier League definitely knew this yesterday before releasing the second free hit chip. A lot of people with free Liverpool, I think it would have been bedlam Boxing Day. People would have given up, actually, I reckon, with the game.
Yeah.
If there wasn't an extra free hit. So that's kind of renewed faith in the game. I saw people kicking off saying it was the wrong thing to do with people's strategy and stuff. It's like, it's pretty unprecedented. And Boxing Day is such a good fixtures that kind of opens up that free hit because no one would have played it with 1 free hit. When now there's 2, there's a bit of a dilemma, isn't there? So I think it actually makes it more interesting. But in terms of players missing, yeah, 3 Liverpool and Josh King. So I brought Josh King in 3 game weeks ago. He's played 1 game, blanked, and yeah, two non fixtures.
Yeah, so it was Josh King that I took out for Lacazette.
Right.
Which looks good now.
Looks a good move now. Despite when,
yeah. The reason I did it was I took him out instead of Antonio at the weekend because of the fixtures. Like the immediate fixtures for Watford weren't great, and yeah, it's kind of worked. I guess it's not really worked out either way because if I got rid of Antonio's looking the big doubt for the weekend. Have been tested positive for COVID, even though we're not really sure. Moyes has been a bit unclear about whether he's going to make it for Boxing Day or not. But I know you were saying it's unlikely he'll start, given the time off, even if he hasn't had symptoms. So yeah, I think I'm just going to leave Antonio in, depending on see what news we get closer to the deadline.
Yeah, one thing that's going in his favour, he is double vaxxed, so get vaxxed, people. Yeah, that makes him back quicker because it's all around. They just go off the government advice, don't they? So it's all around lateral flow tests. So he only has to isolate for 7 days now? Whereas if he wasn't vaccinated, it would be 10 days.
So are we going to talk about whether this means you're going to free hit or not now, or are we saving that for later?
We'll save that for later because obviously we're going to talk more in depth. This was just to touch on it.
Cool.
Before we go more in depth with it, yeah, this is around. I was trying to best describe the City situation really without just putting the players on. So this is the fixtures that are coming up, and when you can see there.
Do you want to read them out for the podcast people?
Yep, we'll do. So there's Leicester, Brentford, Arsenal, Chelsea, Southampton, Brentford again, Norwich, Tottenham, Everton. So other than the Chelsea game, because I think despite how well Arsenal are playing, they still can get at them defensively, can't they? So these fixtures are obviously great from an attacking point of view, but there's just a lot of, and City in such great form at the moment. 11 goals now in the last 2 games. Obviously De Bruyne is back firing. Foden was before he's dropping. Gundogan managing an injury. Bernardo, who's blanked the last 2 now. Everyone's go-to City. The interesting thing for me now is obviously Diaz got a big haul at the weekend, and he's over the Christmas period. He's probably nailed on to start all of these games or miss just one. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, I think still the double up midfield personally. I actually seen a
Yeah.
stat from the FPL saying when Mahrez is playing, he's involved with 40% of City's goals. So it'd be interesting to see if Foden and Grealish are benched for more games, whether he becomes an option. But yeah, I still think the double City for these fixtures, despite being
I'd say it's better to have double City defense now.
yeah.
Because
Yeah,
a lot of
maybe.
people will be coming off double Chelsea defence because Chelsea are bottom of the fixture ticker now.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people who've got, James and Rudiger or James and Alonso or whatever. So if people are looking to keep the same structure, I think it's better to have two City defenders because the points are just so spread out in the City midfield. Like any week, it could be anyone who's scoring. Like it's never the same person, really, is it? I just think it's and there's just so many other good options in midfield. Like we did the top 5 midfielders last week, and we weren't really struggling, were we? And a lot of them are still great options, And we didn't when we did the top 5, we didn't even include Son in the top 5, and he's looking great now with the fixtures they've got coming and the doubles to come for Tottenham. So I actually think double City midfield isn't as great with the information we have now. If you want to attack the doubles that are coming for teams like Spurs and West Ham, I think it might be better to have their midfielders and have double City defense. That's what I think at the moment. Like Diaz and Cancelo.
Yeah, no, fair enough. But yeah, I get your point from that. But then City obviously scored 11 goals last 2 games. Like you can get on the end of, if you're lucky, you can get a double. Obviously the Leeds game, those who had Foden, De Bruyne, they got really lucky, didn't they? Trying to think who scored at the weekend other than Cancelo. Sterling got another, didn't he? So yeah, there's 2 ways to look at it, and obviously they move midfield. But I think 3 City is still a good option. Whether you defense and midfield is up to you.
Fair. Yeah, I'm gonna stick with my boring Bernardo. Hope he stops dodging points at some point.
You're gonna go Diaz at some point when you get off Alonso?
Well, we'll talk about that later. Now that I don't have a captain this week because of Salah, I might actually have to use the money from Alonso for other things. So yeah, we'll come to that at the
end. You want to talk about this? You put this together.
Sweet. So yeah, it's quite difficult to talk about, but there's inevitably going to be doubles and blanks come in. Now that they've announced that they're taking away the replays for FA Cup and I think League Cup semi-finals, there's definite gaps in the schedule where double game weeks can fall, and teams like Tottenham, Spurs, Tottenham, United and West Ham that have had games off recently and have lots of games to catch up on, pretty much guaranteed that they're going to fall in those weeks. So it's quite sensible now as a strategy to look at how to get players from those teams in over the next few. And then because there'll still be blanks to come with the FA Cup later on in the season, you can save, if you can use your transfers to bring in teams from those players anyway, and given they've got good fixtures at the moment for the next few and for the double, it makes sense to sort of target them with your transfers. And then to me, it becomes a case of trying to do that and then save the free hits for the further chaos when there's blanks afterwards. But it is kind of team dependent. It depends how many players you can get out this week and in the next weeks. Like how many teams that double do you want to have in that double game week? It's all a bit up in the air though at the moment because we don't have the fixtures yet. Hopefully FPL don't do what they did last year where they released all the fixtures for the double game week after the deadline. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I think I got lucky. I struck lucky last year, but yeah.
So yeah, we kind of know stuff, but we also don't know stuff. Essentially, we know the teams that are going to double. We just don't know what the games will be and exactly when. So I think I'd recommend, obviously what we've said before about keeping your transfers as late as possible while you wait for more news and other games that get postponed and whatever, and just maybe start to look at the teams that have got fixtures to catch up on. What players do you want from those teams? And we'll start to look at that a bit later in this. But yeah, that's kind of what I think at the moment. I think the focus for me is still on having a good team for the next 2 to 3 weeks. Like there's still 2 or 3 important game weeks before we get to this stage of the season. So I wouldn't take your eye off the ball for the next few weeks before, until we know more about this stuff. I think. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think for me, I'm going to plan with my team in mind. 22, obviously free hit, very enticing there, isn't it? And then plan long term 23 and beyond. I think with the way the situation is now around COVID and games being called off, I think it's just firefighting for the next few weeks and trying to get through it. And yeah, I think that's the best. Personally, that's the best strategy. Free hit and 22, then look to plan your team for beyond, because hopefully around game week 23, that's after the break, isn't it? The winter break. All right, 22 is the. I'm trying to work out when the. So 22 is the first week after the winter break, 14 days. So yeah, hopefully the way the situation is in the country, you never know. By then, it might be a bit more clearer, and then you're not susceptible to kind of. I just think because I've been burnt this week with Matty Cash, I just think 19, 20, 21. I'm just going to try and just plan for the short term with those fixtures, and then kind of look long term after that.
I've not fully looked into it, but one of the other options would be if that double game week 22 turns out to be a monster double, you could wildcard in 21 and then bench boost in 22.
And
then you've got you still got the 2 free hits for the others, like to navigate a blank and a double later on in the season. So
it's just risky though, isn't it? With the games being like that, 21 is New Year's Day, and I still think you could be sold. You could be done a kipper and not have players playing. But
yeah, that is the thing which I think about near the time. But I think that's essentially why I'm kind of leaning towards navigating the next 2 or 3 without using anything and definitely saving the free hit. So yeah, we've just moved on to a tweet here from Mark. So Mark, if you're not aware, is he was the founder of the Fantasy Football Scout website back in the day before he sold it and left the company. So yeah, he's just to read out his tweet for the podcast listeners. The big positive about taking hits for game week 19 and reserving the free hit to game week 22 is that it means we can act on team use and rotation for the double game week right up to its deadline. Trying to build a team capable of profiting well from the double game week using free transfers in game week 20 and 21 feels tricky. So yeah, kind of what you were saying there about New Year's Day and the gap. If you're on free hit then, rather than now, you'd be able to react to everything right up until you can just be moving in and out players as and when games drop or players get COVID, etc. Whereas for this Boxing Day, I think a lot of people will be able to just with a hit or two get enough players out, hopefully. But yeah, it's team dependent, but I think that's sort of what I think.
I think another factor that you alerted me to, because I was edging towards the free hit wasn't when I heard the news originally, is the Salah factor, isn't it? Like he's going AFCON. So if you don't know, Liverpool games off, obviously Boxing Day. Then they've got Leicester away, Chelsea away, and then Salah's off to AFCON. So you kind of, if you go early with Salah to Son or something like that, you're just praying that he doesn't score a hattie against Leicester. And I don't think they have a fit centre back at the moment. I think they played Ndidi there last night. So yeah, that's one that could go horribly wrong as well, isn't it? Because Liverpool are going to play the best team, well, COVID dependent for that fixture because they're not going to play Boxing Day. Whereas other teams, they're going to play 48 hours after. Some teams, aren't they? So
I do agree on that.
That's a risky one. Yeah, I think there's pros and cons to it.
But then people who do sell Salah for that reason, they'll be bringing in players like Ronaldo and Son. And in that week when Liverpool play Leicester, United are playing Burnley at home, and Tottenham have Southampton away. But Southampton and Burnley are both decent fixtures still. Like, you wouldn't be surprised if one of them keeps pace with Salah's score that week. Yeah, you're taking a risk, but yeah, given that Salah's not playing this week, and then off to AFCON soon. After Leicester, is it Chelsea that Salah has?
Yeah,
yeah,
and then AFCON, yeah.
So I think that's what makes it an option. Like, for me, if I take Salah out this week, I've got a way to bring in Ronaldo and Son. So that way,
yeah, interesting.
So that way, in that week, I can then just decide who's best out of those two to try and go against the Salah captaincy, and it means I've got more players this week. And bringing in, like I've just said before, bringing in Ronaldo and Son means you're also preparing for the extra fixtures that United and Tottenham are going to have come the doubles. So yeah, it's a bit up in the air. I've not really decided on it yet, but that's sort of what I'm leaning to. Now that Liverpool have had a game off, they've had a game postponed, they're also now going to have a double at some point, which they weren't going to have before. So you'll just have to make sure if you do get rid of Salah, you have to have a plan to get him back when he gets back.
Yeah, I suppose if you have Jota as well, it kind of makes that decision a bit easier because you got Jota then to cover the Leicester game, haven't you? So yeah, that might make the decision a bit easier for those that have Jota as well.
In some games, Jota's stats have been way better than Salah's as well. So yeah, that's another good shout.
So yeah, we've just talked about why probably won't go with the free hit this weekend. I've looked. I've got 10 players available. Maybe do Salah to Son. I don't know how many have you got. Have you checked? Or currently, this could go down to 6. What will change it if say another 3 fixtures get called off and then everyone's playing the free hit, especially if the good ones are still left?
I mean, yeah. So as it stands, I think I can get 11 out without doing anything. I think at the moment.
Right.
So yeah, I'm like 99% sure I'm not going to free hit in 19. But yeah, we thought for some teams where, you know, there'll be teams that have 3 Liverpool. They might have had Rafinha. They might have had King, etc. So some teams might be really struggling, and in which case, if you are, just 5 or 6 players, you might actually want to use the free hit in 19. We thought we'd run through what a good free hit would look like. So I was just watching this video from Andy, Let's Talk FPL. Not that we need to give him any promo. I think one of the biggest FPL accounts on YouTube, but yeah, check out his video if you've not seen it and you want to hear him talk about this free hit draft. But we thought we'd look at what he's put together and then just critique it and say what we'd do differently.
It's a very good team, that, isn't it? When you look at, and if those 3, if City, Spurs, and United all get a good win, that'll say you right up the ranks, won't it?
Yeah, one of the things to mention is that he was conscious of spreading the funds a bit. Like, usually one of the things about a free hit that makes it one of the best things about it is you can just put all your money into your 11 for that week. And it's not as great to do that at the moment because, if a game gets called off after the deadline or whatever, which can happen now as we've seen, you might need bench players. So that's one of the things to bear in mind if you're doing a free hit this week. Don't just have 11 big 11. Don't just put all the money into your 11. Basically, have some players on your bench in case more games get called off. So, is there anyone here that you sort of disagree with, or is there any players you think?
So for the podcast listeners, we'll just run through it. So it's De Gea, Ramsdale. So obviously he's got 2 keepers there in case one's off. His defense probably where he saved money a bit, but he's still got Reguilon, Tierney, Lamptey, Cancelo, Livramento. Martinelli, Brownhill, Rashford, Son, Foden, and then Ronaldo, Kane, Broha up top. I think if you are to play your free hit this week, then I think Ronaldo, Kane, and Son is a must-have, isn't it? And then kind of work out from there. I suppose maybe if you wanted a third City player, obviously keep in mind rotation. Maybe Diaz instead of Tierney and get the money back somewhere. But then, what's his ceiling? I know he got a goal last week, but yeah, I think he's done it right here. And obviously, he's a very good FPL player. I think if you're playing it this week, put your money into your attack, isn't it? And then kind of Cancelo and two others. I think Reguilon's a good shout this week as well.
So the places where I sort of disagree with his draft, well, not disagree, but things that I would maybe do differently. I wouldn't have Rashford, I don't think.
No.
I just
Will even play.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he has been playing under Ragnick, but he's not looked great by any means. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's not in the team. And even if he does play, there's not really anything to go off in terms of him doing well. He's just looked really poor the past few weeks. So I'd look at something else there. And then also Foden. I just think...
yeah, but he's one way he could... Excellent. I think, yeah, maybe Rashford to De Bruyne is the one and get your money back. Because I think De Bruyne definitely will play. Well, there's me guessing Pep, but yeah.
So, yeah, I think what I would do is I'd do Rashford to Bowen, maybe.
Right.
And then Foden to De Bruyne, if that works.
Yeah.
I just think the risk with Foden is you're taking a big risk. Like, given exactly like what you just said about how Guardiola likes to make a point about behaviour and stuff like that, it's kind of 50-50 whether Foden's going to come straight back in. You know what I mean? With any City midfielder, it's kind of 50-50 anyway. But given that the fact especially he's made a point about I like my players to behave at Christmas, I wouldn't, if I'm free hitting, I wouldn't want the City midfielder to be one of the ones who's just got in trouble.
Yeah. I mean, looking at defence there, one name that I'd be tempted by is Dalot. I think he will play that game. His attacking potential for when he's played the last couple of games as well. I thought he's been quite good whipping early, crossing to box. So he could be one if you're trying to save money at the back. That I'd probably add him into the mix. Newcastle away. Maybe if you are to lose Rashford, that's a way to get two United players into your team.
Yeah, that's a good shot. I think apart from that, it looks like a solid draft, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, half tempted me to, like you say, if you add in De Bruyne there and Bowen, maybe Dalot, Diaz, if you can stretch that far. Yeah, if you had a couple different names to it, it does become attractive after what we've all said. I think if a couple more games go and United, City, and Spurs games still on, then that's when it starts to become a bit more tempting.
Yeah,
but then
definitely.
United comes a day after the deadline, which adds in the whole new, like you could be free hitting and that game could be off. Like that's the game that isn't on Boxing Day. So yeah.
Oh, that's another important thing to say, actually, isn't it? To keep your captain and your vice different days, different teams.
I think it's only United that isn't on Boxing Day. So yeah, that could scup you if you play a free hit, and people imagine the outrage.
Yeah, I'm still not that tempted at the moment, but yeah, I think if anything else happens, if any other games go, I might be looking at it. But I just think, given where I'm at with my team at the moment, I think that's really what you have to do. You have to look at how many players you've got out this week, and how many could you have out with just a hit or two, because the amount of hits there are going to be in the community this week. I'd really rather spend -4 or -8 to have to have enough players this week and use the free hit.
And if you get a couple monster doubles, like you say, then suddenly the free hit becomes a lot more tempting for those geeks.
Yeah, exactly. So, because the thing you mentioned there about United being the only game that's the next day, it's less likely this week compared to maybe some other weeks that games are going to go. I think.
Yeah, they've changed the rule, haven't they? They got, I think it's if you've got 13 players available, including a keeper.
Yeah, but what I also mean is that because all the games are on one day, the information we get over the next 24 hours will be more up to date than it will be like in other weeks where
Yeah.
the deadline passes and there's games like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday afterwards where, the deadline can go and then there's 2 days until some of the games and the games could go after the deadline. I think that's less likely to happen this week with the proximity with most of the games being on Boxing Day. Hopefully, anyway.
Yeah, interesting. I think it's going to come down to whether I want to keep Salah or not, because I think Salah will go if I don't free hit. Whereas if a free hit, he's obviously back for that Leicester game.
So, what are your thoughts on that whole risking Salah thing? Do you think Son and Ronaldo are decent enough options to cover him?
Well, we can bring the fixtures up now, can't we? Dale United, Newcastle, Burnley, Wolves, Villa. So they're second at the ticker, and then Spurs. But you add into the mix that obviously Spurs are definitely like to get a double in 22. So they've got Palace, Southampton, Watford, Arsenal. So that probably does weigh into the thinking. The more you look at it, the more you think take Salah out, don't you? But then if you've captained Salah for that Leicester game and he gets a hat trick, which he very could do, I'm just playing two sides to the court. I think the data suggests the Salah out and not to free hit. Personally,
yeah,
fixtures.
Yeah, because and as I was saying before, Salah could get a hat trick, but I mean, if Son or Ronaldo score get a haul this week and do all right in that week, you're better off. And then Salah's got Chelsea the week after, where people might not want to captain him in that week anyway. Depending on how Chelsea look by then, they've obviously wobbled quite a lot recently, but Kante's back. I think Kovacic is coming back soon. So you'd think, I'd imagine they're not gonna stay in the rut they've been in.
Nah, and well, Chelsea's style of play against City early on the season, that game's, even if Liverpool go up early, they're not going to change. They're not going to be one of the team that kind of chase the game, are they? So they're not going to get completely ripped apart. I say now. So yeah, that probably suggests. So if you are to take,
if it wasn't,
go on.
If there weren't players like Son and Ronaldo to go to, I'd be reluctant to take Salah out. But you go into other players who are they're not the similar level of captaincy option, but they're still decent captain options. So if they weren't the ones we could go to, yeah, I'd be looking at other ways, looking at other things. I wouldn't really be considering it. But the fact that whenever Ronaldo's played, his shot numbers, shots in the box, etc., have been great. Son's now looking resurgent at Tottenham. There was a stat.
Is it around how much ground they've covered?
Yeah, that one. So yeah, they've gone from 20th in the league under Nuno to first for distance covered. So stuff's definitely changing.
I saw someone quote tweet that and say, "What the hell's in ketchup?" Just cracked me up.
Yeah. Obviously, it's a small sample size, but to go from 20th in the league to first for the amount of running suggests whatever he's doing is taking hold quickly. So the amount of chances they had against Liverpool was insane as well, wasn't it? Partly that was because Liverpool were without Van Dijk and their high line just perfectly played into Tottenham's hands. But Son, he's scored, I think his last 3 games he's scored in each one. He's just done well since Conte's been in. So yeah, I am considering that. So I'll talk more about the moves I'm planning right at the end, but that's what I'm thinking. But yeah, it's subject to change. Obviously, everything could change tomorrow if another game goes and whatever. And anything else you want to talk about here on the fixtures? Oh, actually, that reminds me, seeing Everton top of the ticker. Calvert-Lewin's fit. Not really sure if he's fit to start or whatever, but apparently he's going to be back for Burnley, according to Rafa. So looking at Everton's fixtures here, he could be a great person to move to from, Antonio or Lacazette, like loads of people, because people bought in Lacazette just to handle these 2 games here, and then the fixtures for Arsenal aren't great after. So if Calvert-Lewin looks good this weekend against Burnley, that's a great option to move to. You've got Calvert-Lewin for Newcastle at home the week after.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously you touched about Touch United's great fixtures, Spurs great fixtures, West Ham great fixtures. So I've the transfers I brought in a few weeks ago. Not Watkins, Bowen and Josh King. Hopefully, Bowen might actually become good these next couple of games. Southampton, Watford, Palace, Leeds in 22, which is like the double. So yeah, I'm probably keeping him.
If Antonio was out this week, then Bowen will be up front, you'd think, for West Ham this weekend.
My only worry is he played the whole game, didn't he, on last night? But there is no one else. So yeah, you think he's going to play, don't you? My only worry is he might come off. But yeah, in terms of captaincy over the next couple, if you do keep Salah, then obviously Leicester becomes captaincy again. But if you don't, which you're likely to not, what's your captaincy going to look like over the next couple?
So
you might as well talk about your transfers now.
Transfers, yeah. So transfers I've got in my head at the moment are Alonso to Ben Davies from Spurs, Antonio to Ronaldo, and Salah to Son.
Sounds good on paper.
Yeah, it sounds good on paper. So obviously that gives me 2 Spurs players for the fixtures they've got coming, the extra games they're going to have. It gives me a captain this weekend in Ronaldo against Newcastle. And obviously United also have extra games to catch up on, so I'll be getting extra games from Ronaldo at some point. So essentially it's the gamble that Salah won't go off against Chelsea and Son and Ronaldo can get enough points this weekend to cover what Salah gets against Leicester in the sort of almost inevitable haul he gets against Leicester. The only issue I've got with those moves is that if there's any price changes between now and Boxing Day for those players, I might not be able to do it. So I'm not going to go early because this is the worst time in FPL history to go early in your transfers. I'd probably just have to figure out a different way of doing it. Maybe I'd go Lacazette to Ronaldo instead of Antonio to Ronaldo instead. But yeah, they're the moves I'm considering.
I'm guessing it's going to be Ronaldo captain this week.
Yeah, Ronaldo captain this week, and then either Son or Ronaldo the week after, depending on who I think's got the best chance versus Salah.
Interesting. I'll probably right now if there's any more games, tempted by a free hit, but with 10 players, Salah to Son, probably captain Son for that game because obviously I won't have Ronaldo. So yeah, probably captain Son for the next couple. And hope for the best.
You're not tempted by Ronaldo or?
Just look at the team. I'm not sure I'd get him in, other than a guy who loves hits. Maybe get Lacazette out. I mean, I've not actually looked at my transfers yet. I'm kind of just waiting to see what games are going to be off by Christmas Day, and then work my way from there. Because it's pointless. It's pointless, kind of. I mean, if I took Lacazette and Salah out for Son and Ronaldo, I'm 1.2 short, so I'd have to get money from somewhere. Yeah, I'd have to work on that. Yeah, maybe I'm tempted by Ronaldo long term, but this week might come too soon.
Fair. But the only issue is I've taken out players against that have Norwich before, and it's not worked out well for me. So taking out Lacazette ahead of him playing Norwich doesn't really feel great. It's not really the best way to play FPL, taking out players before they play Norwich, but
they're a bit better now, though, aren't they? Under Dean Smith, it's not the Norwich of old, so that kind of goes in favour a bit.
And I just think if it means that you can have Ronaldo and Son,
I think that's a great differential, to go up against Salah.
So yeah, I think I'm sort of 50-60% sure I'm going to make those moves if price changes allowing. But yeah, there's just so much to look at. I think just to reiterate kind of what we've been saying, try and make sure you've got your eyes on the next 2-3 weeks first before you start worrying about the doubles too much, especially because the teams that have good fixtures at the moment are going to have those doubles coming up anyway. So, look at United, look at West Ham, look at Tottenham. And fill the gaps in your team that way. And if you do have a way not to spunk your free hit up the wall this week, try to save it. I'm sure it'll definitely be useful at some point. I think last season when I used my free hit, and when lots of people in the community used it, was the big FA Cup blank game week. And I think people made up like 30, 40 points in that week using it.
Yeah.
So there will be other times when the squad will be more fucked than it is now.
Well, you say as of Thursday.
Yeah, as of Thursday at 6:56. Imagine if games go on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
Logging into FPL to try and put together a free hit with your prosecco and your fucking turkey.
Right, you're giving me a nice little insight into your middle class life. Turkey and prosecco, is it?
Yeah, I don't really drink prosecco often, but I think Christmas Day is one of those days where I'm not one of those people that can drink beer all day. Can you?
No, I know what you mean.
I'm not one of those like lager lads. Can't do 13 pints of lager or whatever. It's just too much. Just start to get sick of it.
Just get on your gin and slimline tonic, mate.
Gin and slimline tonics. That's more for the summer. That's for when you're trying to look lean in the summer. Gin and slimline tonics. I can afford the cows for prosecco on Christmas Day, I think. Well, what's
on
your
that note? Go
what's
on.
give us a little insight? Give everyone a little insight into your Christmas Day. Then what's on the agenda at your Christmas Day?
Don't know, mate. Open some presents, eat some food, eat a lot of food. Yeah, have a few drinks, be merry. I do love a Bailey's on Christmas Day.
Bailey's, all right. I was going to say you've given the most generic fucking Christmas Day explanation ever there. Food, presents, drink. Like bit of detail wouldn't go amiss. Bailey's is.
Don't want to give too much away, mate.
Bailey's is the annual tradition.
Pretty much, yeah.
Right. Weak and timid. That a bit like your FPL chat.
Fucking hell, what are you having? Flaming sambucas for breakfast?
But yeah, if we about to say we can end it there.
Yeah, so hope everyone has a great Christmas. Yeah, hopefully FPL isn't too painful over the Christmas break. It could end up we spending most of our days trying to rectify our blanks, but yeah, nevertheless, hope everyone has a great Christmas, and we'll hopefully catch you before the new year. Yeah, won't we?
Yeah, hope you all stay off Pep's naughty list as well. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.